has been given to the newspaper and it has been published in public places. The next meeting of this council will be October 1st, 2020. Roll call, please.
Councilman Cannon. Councilman Hirsch.
Here.
Councilwoman Kelly.
Here.
Councilwoman Montone.
Here.
Councilman Swindell.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Martucci. Mayor Tagliarini.
Here, thank you so
Okay.
much. Michael, will you kindly do the executive session resolution?
Yes, Mayor. Resolution authorizing the Township Council to enter into executive session. Whereas the Township Council are mindful of the right of the public to attend and witness meetings of governmental bodies at which public business is discussed and to be involved in all phases of governmental action. And whereas the Open Public Meetings Act nonetheless recognizes the authority of a public body to exclude the public from meetings in certain enumerated instances in which disclosure of matters discussed could endanger public safety, property, or other public interest, or invade individual privacy. And whereas, as authorized by the Open Public Meetings Act, be resolved that the Township Council will meet in private session at 6:40 p.m. on September 17th, 2020 to discuss the following specific items: contractual land acquisition, litigation, tax appeal, potential litigation, township events, personnel. Be it further resolved that matters so discussed will be disclosed to the public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
Thank you very much. Can I have a mover on that?
I'll move it.
Second.
Second, great. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Terrific. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, whoever might be on from the public, we'll be back on as close to 7:30 as possible. Thank you for letting us go to executive, and we'll do that right now. Thank you all.
Okay, we're recording.
Good, very good. Thank you and welcome everyone. I'm sorry we ran a little late in executive. And just to show you that we're still not done, we're going to go back to executive after this meeting is conducted. So at this point in time, I'd like to just inform everyone that this meeting is being held in conformance with the Open Public Meetings Act, and notice has been given to the newspaper and posted in public places, and the next meeting is October 1st, 2020. Welcome to the workshop meeting for Thursday, September 17th. Roll call, please.
Councilman Cannon.
Here.
Councilman Hirsch.
Here.
Councilwoman Kelly.
Here.
Councilwoman Montone.
Here.
Councilman Swindell.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Martucci.
Here.
Mayor Tagliarini.
Yeah, thank you very much. Mr. Manager, will you kindly walk us through the workshop agenda?
Yes, Mayor. What I'd like to do first actually is just kind of
Yes.
go out of order for a second, because we do have a presentation to hear, and the administrator from Red Bank has graciously come on today and is going to give a little presentation on the Monmouth Alliance and Energy Aggregation Program. So if we can start with that first, and then when we're done with that presentation, then I'll go back and go over the rest of the agenda for the meeting tonight.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Thank you, Brian.
All right, so let me just do this. There we go. So I want to thank Ziad Shahadi, is our borough administrator from Red Bank, and is the lead agency for this program. So I asked him to come on. I know we talked a little bit about it at our last council meeting, and we asked if Z could come today to give a little bit better presentation for mayor and council, so they can do their due diligence on what they'd like to move forward with this project or not. So Z, thanks a lot for coming on tonight, and I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Brian, and Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for having me. Can everybody hear me fine?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I do have just a sort of a formal PowerPoint presentation that I'd just like to kind of go through quickly. Won't take, I'm certainly not going to bore you with it, but just give an overview, and we can focus on some points that everybody else would like to at the end. But just to set the stage, I mean, there's two things to talk about, right? There's the general aggregation of energy for residents in a community, and that's what we're talking about here today. And then there is what I'll call the aggregation of aggregation, which is this cooperative group that we're trying to form here in Monmouth County. So for anyone who doesn't know, aggregation is a process of banding together all of your residents within the community to get a better price for them than the default price from JCP&L. So what we're doing here, for anybody that's a naysayer, kind of thinking, oh, government's getting involved, Big Brother is getting involved in my electricity or my energy, it's actually doing the same exact thing that the state does. As you know, your energy in New Jersey, whether it's JCP&L, First Energy, or PSE&G, or some of the others, they're selected by the state through a BGS auction, basic generation. And what we're looking to do is to do the same thing, but on a level that is lower and closer to the residents. We find that by doing that, you get a better price than the state, because the state, when they're doing this, is looking across the board, different levels of demand, different levels of reliability, and so a more tailored community energy aggregation will get us a better rate. And so that's what aggregation is in a nutshell. The process to doing a community energy aggregation program involves a few pieces of legislation and some agreements. One is the ordinance to actually establish an energy aggregation program within the community. And the other one is a resolution to select the consultant. And then finally, a resolution to make the award of the electric company that's going to be supplying the electricity. And as part of that, there's some agreements. A consultant will help guide you through this process. And it's a very regulated process and very specifically prescribed by state statute. And that's done to protect the consumers and to protect municipalities as well. So as long as you follow the state prescribed guidelines, there's very little to nothing that can go wrong. And in fact, the community can benefit. So the consultant will guide you and through this aggregation process of drafting the ordinance, the resolutions, and everything has to be submitted to the state. The state reviews it and comes back to the municipality with comments. So as far as these letters, the ordinances, the drafting, the consultant will have a team of professionals, including attorneys, that can do all of this. So there really is no cost to the municipality to do this. The consultant will run an auction for you, and then the consultant, at least any of them that are worth their weight, will guide you and advise you on whether who the winning bidder should be, and whether you should even select one, because there are times where they'll tell you, you know what, you're not going to get a good rate because so many market conditions can fluctuate, such as the prices of oil, the time of the year. All of these things can affect price, and good consultants will tell you, you know what, we didn't get good rates, not good enough, you could do better, let's hold. And they will also do all of the outreach, again, at their expense. They'll do the mailings, they'll host public outreach meetings for you. They run a call center. They'll pre-record videos for you and your residents. They'll have a customized website, frequently asked questions, and they will handle all of that for you. And at the conclusion of that contract, they'll go through another auction for you. And then after that, there's a 30-day window for residents after we've run an auction and we've selected a winner. There's a 30-day window for residents to opt out. There's no pressure whatsoever. In fact, the state makes sure of that. Anybody can opt out very easily by either a mail return postcard, dialing a number, or going to a website, or calling any one of you, and you can refer them to the consultant. The consultants really are very much available to serve you. As a former elected official, I know that residents, no matter what, you have a consultant, you have a professional, they're still going to call you, Mayor. They're still going to call the council members. And the consultants are there to field all of these, so you can just punt all of that work on them and they'll do it. And so residents can also opt out anytime after the 30-day window as well, but that 30-day window is before the program can even start. Residents who don't have a third-party supplier already, and if they don't have solar, will be included. Third-party suppliers, companies like Veridian, there's a bunch of companies out there that some residents have contracted through directly for their own. They can't be forced into this program. They're automatically excluded, but they can always opt in as well. Residents can always opt back in if they choose to opt out. And part of this process also, everything else stays the same through your utility. that means they only get one bill and they continue to receive a bill from the electric company that they've been getting all along. I'll show you an example of what the difference is on that bill. They'll still call the utility for any issues with outages or service related questions. Power goes out, there's a storm, whatever it is, they still will call the utility company that they've been calling. As far as the residents are concerned, there's really been no change other than less cost in their monthly bill. There's no like pressure that you can't, you're not going to get people knocking on your door pressuring you to opt in either. What you'll see on the bill is, if anybody has paid attention to their bill, there are two charges that make up your total utility bill. That's a generation service and a delivery service charge. When you've got one utility company, if you have not already contracted out with your own, or if you're not part of an energy aggregation program, the basic generation service and the delivery service are still from the same company. When we go through this, the only difference that's going to happen is the basic generation service will be a lower cost, and it'll be by whoever we select to provide the electricity. That's the only difference. Still one bill, still one payment, it's just going to be less. If there's ever, a guarantee of this program is what we go through for this auction and who we select, it can never be more than what JCP&L's rate is with BPU. So at no point will residents pay more than what JCP&L is doing. But that's all, and so what's the point of this? Obviously, like, we're looking to save money. There's going to be flexible participation in doing this. Everything still stays the same through the utility. Bottom line is residents save money. What's the difference? And I'm sorry, here are some other municipalities that have done it. I've also done it in a previous municipality I worked in. Also, we went through the auction process in Red Bank, and we did it in Red Bank, and our consultant actually said, look, the timing isn't right. You didn't get the best rate. Hold off and go out to auction a little bit later. And that's what brings us to this point, right? We were doing our own aggregation program. Some other environmental commissions got wind of it, and some other towns got wind of it, and they said, you know what, we want to do the same thing. So we discussed it with our consultant. We discussed it with Sustainable Jersey, and Sustainable Jersey started doing outreach to a bunch of other municipalities and said, hey, if we band together, then we can get a better rate. The reason we think we didn't get a good rate is because we were looking to do a little bit more in terms of renewables, and because the size of our energy that we were aggregating probably was not large enough to be competitive. So when you decide to go through this process, the consultant will do a pull of the electricity data for the town as a whole, not individually. So they won't know, Mayor, how much electricity you are using. They'll look at the whole town as a whole and how many total kilowatt hours is the municipality using as a whole. They will then use that data and provide that to the auction, to the companies that are going to possibly bid, and say, here's how much of a bulk purchase we're looking to get. So when we pool together your town, our town, and some of the other towns, we get better purchasing power by doing this, and we'll get better competitive rates. And we'll have the option to source this energy from more renewable sources than what's presently provided. So the state right now, under a bill from 2018, required that basic generation service providers provide 35% of the electricity come from renewable sources by 2025. And by 2030, they want the state to get to 50%. So that prescribes where this electricity is coming from. So by also aggregating, we have the benefit of going even further above and beyond that and getting better, greener energy for our residents at a better rate. So we have a positive environmental impact, and we have a positive financial impact for our residents. So that's the goal of doing what we're talking about here, which is this, the Monmouth County RGEA. It's modeled after Essex County's RGEA. They did it over there through the Sustainable Essex Alliance. A few municipalities did it. And thus far, we've got 3 towns. Right now, we have Asbury Park on board. Mattawan's on board. That's a little pressure for you to join us now. and Bradley Beach. We have 3 others, including yourselves, that are sort of on the fence or inquiring, but have some interest. So before we even get into all of these things that I described, right, what we're looking to do is establish this cooperative. And there's no commitment on your part by joining this cooperative. You can still opt out even before. What we're looking to do is have a few municipalities who are going to select an energy consultant together. So we haven't even gotten to the point of yet the ordinances, creating the energy aggregation program, even going to the auction. And that's not what I'm asking you tonight to do. What I'm simply asking, what this group is asking and Sustainable Jersey is asking, is for a few municipalities to come together to create this cooperative of towns that want to express their interest to a consultant that we want them to work on our behalf as a group to run an auction for us. So that's what we're looking to do tonight, and I'm asking you to adopt a resolution to designate Red Bank as the lead agent, as other municipalities have done. And that's not because I have anything to gain from this other than more work. And believe me, I got a lot of work on my plate. So this is the last thing I want, but I do think that we volunteered, we're willing to do it, and our experience, my experiences in running these aggregation programs will benefit the group. So if you can designate Red Bank as the lead agent, as the other municipalities have done, we will then draft a RFQ to hire an energy consultant. And if you're part of this initial group, then you get to weigh in on who that energy consultant is. Under state public contracts law, we don't actually need an RFQ to pick an energy consultant, but in the name of transparency and for the sake of pleasing all these municipalities that are going to be part of this group, we want to make sure that everyone in the group has a say in selecting the best energy consultant. So if you join and designate Red Bank as the lead agent in this, we'll put out an RFQ, and that you'll designate probably Brian or maybe someone else from the group who will review this draft RFQ with me. We'll publish it. We'll then receive those proposals, and this group will be able to select of the energy consultants out here in the state, which one we want to represent all of us. Once we've done that, then that energy consultant will guide you and all the other municipalities through the ordinance to create an aggregation program. And then we will put the auction together, and then we will bid on, we'll have bidders bid on our electric supply, and then we can all make a selection process. But it's got to be done through a co-op, just like you would buy maybe a fire truck through a co-op or police vehicles through a co-op. We would buy this, we would contract with this energy aggregation provider through a co-op. We would select it with the input of the group that's part of the this consortium, and save hopefully residents money and be more agreed. So that's really it in a nutshell. Hope I haven't taken up too much of your time, but happy to answer any questions you may have.
May I call you Z?
Please do.
Well, thank you, Z. First, let me just thank you on behalf of the council for coming out tonight. I'm sure there'll be some questions, but at least I wanted to say thank you first, because sometimes that's forgotten. And I think you did a great job in explaining it. So if anybody has any questions for Z, please ask.
I have one. I mean, I just want to make sure I fully understand it. I mean, full disclosure, as you know, I work for Z in Red Bank. I'm the borough attorney there, but it's not my job to pay attention to this. Z's been doing all the work. I actually don't know all that much about it. So my understanding, and I was there obviously for the presentation in Red Bank as well. Delivery charges, who delivers your electricity and who makes it are two different questions. And that's why, like, for a long time when this market opened up, everyone was getting all that stuff in the mail from every kind of person who's trying to sell you their power individually. And so it's my understanding that this is basically the same concept, but now the BPU has allowed municipalities to be the aggregator of that versus like the guys who are knocking on the doors. Is that a fair clarification?
100%. That's absolutely correct.
And then, so there's really two ways, and my understanding when I heard this in Red Bank was there's really two ways to win in this. So number one, the state's requiring JCP&L to use 35% renewable energy. And through this program, you can basically ask for bids at any percentage of energy. It could be 80%, it could be 100% if your community is that oriented towards, green energy. And then, so that was a parameter you could change. And then number two, because essentially you're making all these people compete against each other, and then you can reject all bids if you don't get a better price. You essentially can't lose on the price if you're going with the standard 35%. Or your community could opt to pay more, potentially, if you, tenths of a cent per kilowatt hour, however it came out in the bid, if you wanted to go green and use more to accelerate the process of the state policy. I mean, is that a fair characterization?
Yes, Councilman, that's correct, 100%. What's going to happen is ideally we would, through this group, before we select the energy consultant and we put the RFQ for the consultant, we would indicate to them that we want them to put together a bid package for the electric bidders on different levels of energy renewables. So what we did in Red Bank is we told them we wanted to see bids at, let's say, 50%, 75%, and 100%. That way, when the energy companies come back to us, they can say, well, at 50, we'll give you this rate, at 75, we'll give you that rate, and at 100, we'll give you that rate. And so we can then weigh, what do we value? Where's that sweet spot? Do we want to go to 100, but maybe we'll only save 1 cent per kilowatt hour? Or do we want to go to 50% and maybe save 10 cents per kilowatt hour? I'm just, making numbers up. But that's where being part of this collective early on gives you a seat at the table to say, hey, here's where our policy directive, our policy goals are. We want to get the most renewable energy, or we want to get the most savings, or, we want to have that sweet spot. So we will, whether it's Brian or any other designee, we'll put that bid spec together to say we want to see these different levels of renewable energy minimums bid. And then when the prices come in, you'll also be a part of that discussion the day of the auction to say, here's what we're voting for, 50%, or we're voting for 75%. And that's what the group will go with.
Z, when you mentioned before that the last time you went out to bid, Red Bank wasn't pleased with the savings, was that based on maybe a 50% green energy? Was it 35%? And what was unacceptable to you? What kind of percentage of savings?
Well, actually, at the time, I'm trying to pull up here the numbers. I've got them for you, and I can even show you what would happen. So here we go. Share screen. So this is what we got the day of the auction, actually. The day of the auction, we got and this is the consultant will provide a report. The report that we got actually was for only a 6-month contract. And the most that we'll get is either 6 months, 1 year, 18 months, or 24 months. Also, they'll bid on different terms. We got 6 months, and I think this one was at, I have to take a look at, oh, it does, I apologize, Mayor, it doesn't say it on here. But what you'll see is we only got for 6 months a company that bid a very minor savings. Our current price was 0.09 cents, 0.092 cents, and it was a 0.089. So it was a savings, but it was only for a 6-month term, and we didn't feel that it was worth the effort of going through all of that public outreach, only to have to do another auction again in 6 months, only for a very minimal savings. I don't remember the percentage, to be honest with you, Mayor.
Okay. No, what you showed us answers the question. Thank you, Z.
Sure.
Steve, did you also say that in that presentation that if you have solar, you're not able to go into this consortium?
It's not that you're not able to, it's you won't automatically be part of the aggregation. You can opt in later on, but the state has said that anybody that's got solar, because there's a metering process that's involved with solar. I put solar on my parents' house, for example. You're running 2 different meters, you're feeding into the grid. So your consumption data is gonna vary, obviously. Some people are producing 100% solar at their homes, depending on the season. So I think that's why it's not automatically included, but you can always opt in anyways.
Okay, so this is strictly residential, because you do know that Aberdeen gets about 75% of its electric needs via solar. So yes. Town hall, public works. So we wouldn't qualify for town hall anyway, right?
Correct. So municipal buildings, government properties, those are excluded from this. In a lot of towns already, I'm not sure about Aberdeen, but we're part of what's known as the NJSEM, which is sort of like the GIFs and the HIFs in New Jersey. It's essentially the same thing. It's an aggregation, but for government entities. So for example, Red Bank's in the SEM, that municipal property, schools, things like that, they're pulled together and aggregated on their own. Large businesses, because there's a commercial rate by the utilities, so that's why it's not included. It'll skew off the numbers. However, small commercial can also opt in. They're not part of the automatic inclusion as residents are, but they can opt in for those rates if they'd like.
Okay, having a pretty aggressive business council in Aberdeen, this is a topic that's come up, and just the 7 members that are part of the council all have some sort of plan like this in place. So what you're saying is businesses, small commercial would be able to opt in at a certain point?
Yes, some businesses would be able to opt in.
Okay.
But you know, the consumption for businesses is different also. You know, they're running refrigerators, industrial, all of these things. These are all things that affect demand and the supply. And that's what the electric, the bidders, the prospective bidders want to, that's why, you know, residential, and you really wouldn't want them as part of that original bid package because they could affect the rates for the residents negatively. So you'll lock in a lower rate and then they can opt in. But you know, they're looking at not only what the kilowatt hours, but the data that the bidders would get from JCP&L is what are the peak hours? When are they looking like they're higher? You know, when are more residents at home? Seniors may use, you know, all of these things affect demand and consumption, and the bidders need to know that.
Right. Could I be so bold as to ask you what maybe was the biggest resident complaint that either you got or had received from anyone in this consortium? Would you be able to share something like that with us?
Well, so we didn't yet get complaints from residents in Red Bank because we didn't go through with the selection of a provider. So we were all up to the point of running an auction. In a previous place I did, we really didn't get complaints. It was the biggest thing is leading up to it, people just educating them on the process. The biggest skepticism, I would say, and I heard it from other towns that did do this. I think it was Eatontown that did do this, went through a contract. The biggest concern that I heard was occurring is people thinking government is getting involved in a way that they don't want them getting involved. Sort of Big Brother is telling me who to get my electricity from. And frankly, it's a simple response, which is government's already doing that for you. It's just happening at the state level. And so now we're taking away, rather, I shouldn't say taking away, we're getting control back at the local level to pick a provider who is best suited to our needs in the sense that they're looking at our consumption here locally, what's happening maybe in Atlantic City's residents, you know, well, they have a different provider, but other JCP&L, you know, let's say in the north part of Jersey where JCP&L is generating electric, the rates that affect over there are probably affecting you here in Monmouth County as well. And so we're getting something that's more tailored to us and giving the residents that choice of cheaper electricity.
Okay, and then I think the big question would be, which we heard once before years ago when we looked at this, who's actually minding the store? Is it the consultant firm? Does the resident have to put a mark on his calendar that he has to call somebody or send in a postcard saying, I'm now opting out? Or is that going to be done by the consortium that says, we didn't get a great price, so we're not using anybody in this 6, 12, 18-month period, and we're reverting back to JCP&L for both parts of the bill? So is there any pressure on the resident to keep track of what they are doing for their home?
Absolutely not. So what's going to happen is the consultant, before really the public, I mean, the public's going to hear about this because of meetings like this, right? We're talking about it. There's going to be an ordinance to create the energy aggregation program, so the public will have an opportunity to learn about it. At that point, the consultant will again come to you at your council meeting and give you a similar presentation to the one I gave you to educate the residents at that point. Residents still won't have to opt out or do anything just yet. We'll then go to an auction. Once we've made the selection, then the clock of, there's like a 30-day period of, you know, this aggressive public relations campaign to educate the public. Throughout that 30-day period, before we actually make the switch, residents will be able to opt out. Once they're in the program, they can again opt out at any point. But once we've made a contract pick, let's say it's a 24-month contract pick, at the end of that 24 months, it will automatically go back to JCP&L. State regulates this stuff. So it'll automatically go back to JCP&L. But at the probably 20-month mark, if we do a 24-month contract, we will come back and say, hey, we want to run another auction. This was great. We saved a lot of money. We want to run another auction so we can continue the 24, continue these savings. If we choose not to, if you choose to opt out at that time, residents, again, have nothing to do. It'll automatically go back to JCP&L. And what we would do, you can get a variable price contract or you can get a fixed price contract. Again, by being part of this group, you'll be able to weigh in on what you want. Most likely we'll do a fixed price contract, which means that for the 24 months, that contract is locked in. Right now, JCP&L can go to BPU anytime within 24 months and say, you know what, we want to increase our rates. By doing this, we lock in those rates for 24 months. And again, hopefully save the residents money. But if at any point JCP&L's rate is lower than what we are paying in that 24-month lockout, it automatically goes back down to JCP&L's rate. Residents have to do nothing. We have to do nothing. It automatically happens.
Thank you, Z.
Councilwoman Monton, you had a question.
Yeah, hi, Z. You've kind of answered the question. I have two questions, and you kind of answered one of them twice, but I just want to clarify it in my own mind. And that is, in the beginning, when these third-party companies came out, there were a lot of horror stories about people who signed up and then were locked into a rate, and JCP&L got this low rate all of a sudden, and they couldn't get out of the rate they had. But you're saying that that will never happen. In no monthly period will someone be paying more for their electricity than they would have paid if they were with JCP&L. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's the benefit of doing a community energy aggregation program. So when a resident does it on their own through a TPS, it's like they're negotiating their own contract, just like you would negotiate your own car purchase or you would negotiate your own internet contract with Verizon or whomever. The benefit of doing a community energy aggregation program is the state in the state statutes and through this puts in these kinds of protections that there's really not going to be any wiggle room for these bidders to mess around with residents. We have the upper hand here. Whereas if you just negotiate on your own, you've got to read the fine print. You got to make sure that they're not hurting you. We're acting as their advocate. The consultant's acting as their advocate. The BPU is acting as their advocate. So they will never have a problem where they're locked in and can't get a better rate.
Okay, and the second part of my question is something else that you said. And you talked about, possibly bringing in businesses and they may have a bigger drawer on the power and that could possibly cause a problem. And I go back many, many years when there were brownouts all over the place.
Margaret, you're cutting out. You have to talk towards your phone.
Towards my phone? You can't hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All good.
I'm good? Okay. So many years ago, there were brownouts in lots of places because there wasn't enough electricity to power certain. Red Bank was big on it. I mean, they had a lot of problems in Red Bank. When we purchase this electricity from a third party, are we only purchasing a certain amount or will they meet our needs no matter what they are?
No, they'll meet our needs no matter what. They're not actually, it's a very complicated system in New Jersey with the way deregulation happened. They're producing it usually in other part, no matter what, but we're going to get the delivery, and that's where JCP&L comes in. You're going to get it's not going to be affected by it. JCP&L is who's delivering that electricity. So we're telling JCP&L essentially, we want you to buy the power from them.
Okay.
It's sort of like, I don't want to say it's hypothetical electricity. It's not like it's one particular location where you're saying, buy it from this store. It's more of who's generating it for JCP&L to purchase from.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Sure.
Councilman Hirsch?
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Ziad, one thing that keeps crossing my mind on this, why isn't the state doing an aggregate? Why isn't the state doing a statewide aggregate and picking up all of that additional kilowatt hours from the whole state to negotiate. Why is it that it's being done with municipalities? And I'm still, and I heard what you said, and I understand the way you approached it, but I'm still concerned with how the residents are going to feel about being forced. And I know they're not being forced because it can opt out and everything else. That Aberdeen, their municipal government, is highly recommending that you purchase your electric through company XYZ. That's one thing, and I'm having that's probably one of my biggest concerns is the PR behind it. And like I said, if the aggregate works for a group of municipalities, why doesn't the state just do an aggregate for statewide?
Excellent question, Councilman. So the state is actually doing an aggregation. That's how we get JCP&L or PSC&G, depending on where you live. So right now, what the electricity you're getting is the default provider. That's in our area, JCP&L. JCP&L is selected through the state auction, but it's doing it on behalf of the whole service territory that's served by JCP&L or PSC&G. What we're doing is we're carving up that aggregate into areas that are similar, that are closer in proximity, and not as large in order to get a better rate than the state's aggregation. Okay, the state, because JCP&L, let's say in your area, JCP&L is serving territory all the way up to North Jersey and all the way down to parts of South Jersey. Large swaths of area east to west. Same as PSC&G. So when JCP&L decides to set their rate, it's setting it based on that large group of residents in order to come up with the rate. But that's not always going to be the best rate based on geography or based on population and demographics. So what we're looking to do is carve it up into a smaller chunk, but not so small that we get a better rate than what the state's setting the default rate at. To the point of the marketing, that's where the consultants are going to come in. They do a lot of outreach on your behalf. You can do more, but they're going to, as part of the RFP that we develop, we set a minimum level of outreach that we want them to do, a minimum level of public relations avenues, telephone numbers, postcards, mailings, town hall forums, Zooms, to educate the residents on exactly what this program is, to kind of eliminate that fear. Because what we're doing, again, they're going to say, well, government's picking my electric provider. Government already is picking your electric provider. That's the state BPU. So we're doing exactly what the state is doing, but on a smaller level to get better rates and to also look at better renewable energy sources than what the state's already mandated. And I think that residents will be pleased with it. And really, you're just going to hear that skepticism in the beginning. But a lot of skeptics end up changing their mind when they see their neighbor Bill or Susie to their left or right saying, wow, I saved $50 a month, $100 for the year, whatever it is we figure out. You really should join. And then you'll find people who opted out previously deciding to join in.
Can I have one other question, Zay?
Yes, Kevin.
Okay. Just want to put this in the right context. Take another question. Let me come back to it. Let me just formulate what I wanted to say.
I had a quick follow-up. You already remember. So the BGS is done at a statewide level, what, to determine who JCP&L is getting all their power from to deliver to us as a default? So the JCP&L rate's really them drawing the power from Ohio, Pennsylvania, wherever they're bringing it into the basket of the state. And so they have to know whether they're going to, I guess my question, is it a good analogy like you're auctioning this, you're going to invite the whole state over for lunch, but you don't know how many people are going to show up. So you got to keep power available that you're going to lose money on. So we're getting a bit like it doesn't make sense. Typically, like we're going in a smaller area and then trying to make this balance between big and small to kind of make that renewable balance to make it a sustainable effort. But really, if you tailor, that's why they don't want to include our big businesses because they pay capacity charges to have a lot of power on power when in the summertime for like air conditioning and stuff. So is this like if you tailor, you're basically telling them exactly what you need delivered so they can give you a more specific price? Is that a fair characterization of the market that we're talking about?
Yes, 100%. And that's why the default rate statewide is not always necessarily going to be the best one for our collective, our group, our cooperative. And again, one of the benefits of doing this, and I'll confess, you know, I'm not an energy expert. I'm not an energy consultant. I'm able to talk about some of these things just from having gone through it. But really, the focus, and I understand there's a lot of great questions about energy aggregation and all, but that's actually at the point of when we get a consultant, those energy consultants will be able to come here and speak to you a lot more clearly, succinctly than I can. But what I'm talking about is let's get to the point where we form a collective to even select a consultant, and you can always opt out again later. Really, what the point of what the stage we're at is let's come together as a group to say we want to do this regionally, to select a consultant first, not even yet run an auction, not even pick a provider. So what Councilman Cannon, when he was in Red Bank as the borough attorney and the consultants came, he was hearing them at the point that we selected a consultant already and we were committed, and he heard a presentation from them as well. And that's the same thing that's going to happen again. So that consultant that we pick will be back here to talk to you about all of these very specific things for you to even decide, yeah, we want to go ahead and run this auction.
And, you know, we're all consumers, so everything is price driven. But I think something that I wouldn't want to get lost, and I do see one of our environmental friends on the screen, what we don't want to also lose was the other part of this, that it's sustainable. New Jersey is involved with this. There's green issues involved with this. And that truly piques my interest. Not that saving $1 doesn't pique my interest, but I think, Z, I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. That's an incredible element to all of this when we can help the environment buy more green and save money. Is a pretty good trifecta. So I would like to hear more, and I'll let the council decide. But I thank you. Artie, did you come up with that question yet?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome.
Okay. Going through JCP&L, they offer a budget program, Z, where you can pay $100 a month all year long, and then it gets adjusted annually based on what you used for the past year. Is that same program going to be available through the aggregate scenario? Should we move forward, and should the residents or a resident choose to opt in?
Yes, budget billing is still a part of this. So if a resident decides to do it on their own as a TPS, I don't believe budget billing is available. But by doing it as a community energy aggregation program like this, that's yet another benefit of going with someone other than JCP&L for the generation, but they can still continue their budget billing.
Thank you.
Good question, Art.
The point of environmental and green, just for anyone that's curious, I'm a bookworm, I'm a nerd, Greg will tell you. I like reading everything, and if you haven't looked at your electric bill, you'll see on the back a little pie chart usually that shows you where your electricity is coming from. And how much of it is coming from renewable. It'll also specify how much of it is geo, how much of it is wind, how much of it is solar. It breaks it down as is on your bill. So we'll still, and to your question, Councilman Hirsch, again, as far as JCP&L is still going to be doing the billing. You'll still see that on your bill. You're still going to see everything priced out there. You'll still call JCP&L for any issues with service. If we decide to change our ratio of how much renewable we want, you'll start to see that also reflected on your bill. So you'll see where that's coming from. When we run the auction, they will have to disclose where their energy is coming from, so we can make decisions as part of that. That's all the more reason why it's great to adopt the resolution to be a part of this cooperative first, because then you can be part of that decision-making process. You can start to weigh in and say, as you said, Mayor, our policy goals are to be more green. You can have a seat at the table of this cooperative to say, we would like to see this percent. If you tried to do this on your own, you probably wouldn't get as good of rates as if you join this cooperative. And that's why I think it's important to, for us to band together as a region, as a smaller group, and buy our electricity through this auction for both purposes, financial savings. And I'll tell you, and Councilman Cannon will attest to, Red Bank's policy goal there too is to be more green, to make a decision in the process that will have a positive impact environmentally. And so I think we share that same goal.
So if I understood you correctly, the co-op that we're looking to form, for lack of better terms, will have a say in how much is renewable energy, or can we, or as an individual municipality, dictate how much of the energy we want as renewable, coming from renewable sources, whether it be wind or solar or geo or.
So if you join the cooperative, this group, this alliance, by adopting this resolution, you'll have a say in what this group is going to pick, what percentage. We're going to run an auction at the different degrees. Like I said, maybe it'll be 50, 75, and 100. And we'll see which one is that sweet spot for the group. If you join this alliance, you'll have a say in which percentage we choose. Each town, though, won't be able to go off on their own and pick their own unless they form their own, energy aggregation program independent of the alliance. But you probably won't get as good of rates as if we ran it together.
Thank you.
And you could always, our goal is, and what we saw in Essex is a small group of about 3 to 6 municipalities formed this, and others joined on later because they saw, hey, it's working for them. We want to join it now. And you could do that. You could, you'll be a part of that, but you won't have a say in that process of formulating the RFQ, in terms of selecting the consultant, and in terms of selecting what the contract is. You'll just automatically go into whatever the group selects. So that's the benefit of getting into it at this stage of the game.
Any other questions for Z at this point? I don't see anything. Brian?
Nope, you're all good, Mayor.
Okay, so can we let Brian go and then we can discuss this, or?
No, we
Yeah.
can't let Brian go.
I can't leave. I wish I could go right now, but no problem.
No, what I meant to say, for the council to decide, we're not going to decide right now, I don't think.
So we do have a resolution that I would ask,
Yes.
if the council wants to move forward to do more discussion and have Red Bank be the lead agency. We do have a reso that I would ask to then have walked on, so you can move forward with more discussion and everything. If that's what the council wishes, that would be up to, of course, all of you. So I did prepare just in case
Yes.
council wanted to move forward. But rather than that, if you wanted more discussion, that would be, Mayor, that would be
Yeah,
your.
I think now Z, we're scheduled to meet again October 1. Does that fall into a timeline that even if you did start and we joined in, as you
Yes.
said? Yeah.
Yes, Mayor. So just as far as timeline goes in this resolution that Brian's talking about, so the resolution, again, it won't commit you to this energy aggregation program, and it won't commit you to, again, there's a lot of more steps in the process. What it's committing you to is being part of this group and having a seat at the table to develop an RFQ and to select the energy consultant with us. So we can select the energy consultant on our own, but if you designate us as the lead agent, you're part of this alliance, you can work in that group. And our timeline is to develop an RFQ to be published by mid-October. So if you have a council meeting October 1 and you join by adopting that resolution, that's perfect timing.
Okay.
There's a template RFQ already provided from Sustainable Jersey. We'll just fill in the blanks, as far as criteria goes. And we'll hope to, by the end of October, have the bids from these consultants due. So October 1's a good time frame. But if you aren't inclined to do it, just let us know sooner if possible, because we do want to move forward on this and strike while the iron's hot. We've got 3 other municipalities.
Sure. Well, since I'll classify it almost contractual with our clerk sitting here, maybe we'll call a special exec meeting to discuss this further, be prior to October 1 to everyone's convenience, so that maybe by October 1 we'll be ready to actually give you an affirmative answer on this. So I guess we'll probably call a special meeting, but we'll discuss that with Ms. Ventura and Mr. Russell and see if we'll have a special executive on this.
Okay, Mayor. I hear there might be a little bit of like friendly rivalry between Madawan, so I don't know if it helps to say that they signed on board.
No, there's no right.
That's a good reason not to.
Yeah, that's what's making us think more, Z. And my luck, someone's brother's online right now listening to this, and they'll call me tomorrow morning.
Oh, I know he's going to call.
So-
That's okay. I tell them that we're the original Madawan all the time.
Yeah, we're the ones who, we changed names and broke away, right? But Z, if that's okay with you, I think we'll probably be a little comfortable.
No
More
problem.
comfortable having the exec, but we will not make you wait till October 1.
No, that's I don't intend to pressure you by all means. I don't. I hope it doesn't come off as pressure. It's just we've been the pandemic kind of put a break on all of this, and a lot of people are eager to move, and it's a good thing. So and another benefit, Mayor, is Sustainable Jersey. I know.
Oh, I'm looking at some green team folks, and we would love nothing to get more than get points for Sustainable New Jersey. So that caught my eye right away.
Great.
But thank you so much on behalf of all of us for coming on. I think you did a great job in explaining it to us, and we'll get to work on it.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. I'm gonna hop off then. I'm in enough meetings.
Yeah, I understand.
If you need anything, just let me know.
Well, thank you, Mr. Manager. We greatly appreciate your time.
No problem.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
All right, so I'll just finish up the rest of the workshop so we can move on to more important things.
Okay.
Item number 1 is the renewal of a liquor license for July 1, 2020 to June 20th, 2021. Number 2 is a relief from property taxes for domestic nonprofit corporation. The name of the company is on the resolutions. Number 3 is an award of a bid for odor control and corrosion control to Bioxide. That's for the sewer plant materials for our sewer plant. Awarding a bid for award of a bid for Department of Public Works materials for maintenance and repairs. Again, that's a lot of different things for the road materials, for different things for the streets and roads programs.
Right.
Number 5 is approving the 3rd amendment to the master redevelopment agreement with Somerset Development, which was discussed earlier this evening. So that resolution is on for approval, and we already discussed our presentation. So Mayor, that's it, 1 through 5 for the meeting that we will have coming up. Plus I'll give my regular report during the regular portion of the meeting.
Okay. Thank you so very much. And it should be noted that item number 5 was discussed in executive, and an action will be taken on that. Are there any questions from any of the members of council on these other 5 workshop agenda items? Okay, not seeing any. That's pretty good. Good job, Brian.
I try once in a while.
Great. Well, then can I have a motion from the deputy mayor to go into the regular meeting tonight?
So move.
My fellow council members, I'd like to make a motion to move into our regular meeting from workshop.
Great. Second on that? Anyone? Okay. Second.
Second.
Terrific. Thank you. All in favor of that? Good.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, terrific. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much, and welcome to the September 17th regular meeting. This meeting is being held in conformance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice has been given to the paper and posted in public places, and we would be meeting again October 1, 2020. Roll call, please.
Councilman Cannon.
Here.
Councilman Hirsch.
Here.
Councilwoman Kelly.
Here.
Councilwoman Montone.
Here.
Councilman Swindell.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Martucci.
Here.
Mayor Tagliarini.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, lots of paper shuffling. Roll call, thank you so very much for doing that. Now we'll have a moment of silence, which we always think about our men and women in the armed forces protecting us here on domestic soil and foreign soil. And of course, to all the doctors, nurses, first responders, everyone who is fighting this pandemic, we should keep in our thoughts. And of course, any friends and family that we might have lost to the pandemic. Let's have a moment of silence, and I invite everyone for their own personal intentions also. Thank you very much, and we'll do our salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag of the United States of
America,
America and to the
to the
republic
republic
for which we stand,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Terrific. Thank you, everyone, for participating on that. Reports. I don't believe our chief is with us tonight, so I'd like to do a quick report on an event that we had last night, which, in speaking with the chief, he used the word great and wonderful and everything else. Last night we promoted 4 individuals to higher rank and brought 3 brand new police officers onto the force. I want to thank Brian and everyone at Town Hall, Brittany, the chief, Tommy, and I know I'm going to Adam from Dispatch for playing such an important role in putting that event together. With social distancing in mind, we put up a tent and we did the swearing in. It was an outstanding event. And I know for most of us in our 10 or 11 years now, that was probably the largest event we've had when it comes to our police department. And it should be duly noted that we gave great credit to these men and women for keeping us safe during the pandemic and the COVID and the electric outlet outages and everything else that's happening in 2020 to us this year. So again, I just want to congratulate everyone who was promoted to our 3 new recruits. And I think Margaret might have something about parks, if I'm correct.
Yes, I do. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. So just a quick update about the 2020 parks. So the contractors are working at the Storyland Park as we speak. They have already completed the drainage and they're working on grading now, and they'll be working on fencing as well. We've gotten some questions and they're working on the fencing there also. The engineer informed us that maybe as early as Monday, they will move over and they'll start working at Fordham Park. And then I'm assuming, Mayor, that means that after Fordham Park, they'll begin at Booker. And I'm not sure what the start date on that is at this point, but we do know that they will be at Fordham Park as early as Monday. Moving over to the other side of town in Cliffwood Beach, the DPW is working on installing benches at the seawalk. I actually saw the first one they put up. I'm not so sure how many others are there, Brian, but maybe you can tell us. But they are really beautiful. So if you haven't gone down and taken a look, they're really nice benches. And these benches were donated by Quality First. And there are going to be quite a few of them on the Seawalk, which will be really nice. It's a beautiful place to sit and look out at the water. It's really nice down there. We also, I want to remind you that we also have a bench donation program. So if you would like to donate a bench, maybe as a memorial or to honor someone, please give a call over to Brian. There is one already. You can take a look at it. Definitely at the Seawalk. It's right by the gazebo, so you can see what the bench would look like. And we can put them at other parks as well. We've already done that at other parks. So if you're interested in that, please give a call over to Brian. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else have a report they'd like to give us tonight?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I just want to remind the residents that September 30th is the final and closing of the 2020 census, which is an event that happens in this country every 10 years. And I want to remind everybody, if they have not yet filled out their census, please do so. Funding for our municipality, funding and representation in Washington depends on the results of the census and the number of people that respond. It's not Big Brother looking at you. It's trying to get more money out of Big Brother. So do your part, fill out your census before September 30th. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. And if you don't go online or call, you'll probably get a knock on the door. And if you'd like to avoid that, please either go online or call it in. And Councilman Hirsch is right on the spot. No personal questions are asked. They just want to know who lives here in Aberdeen. So please do your best to get yourself counted. Anyone else have an update on anything before I move on? Okay, I will move on to the hearing of the citizens. Yes?
No,
I just
Got it.
wanted.
gotta let the manager talk too.
Yeah,
Yes.
Not Brian too.
Yes. I am so sorry.
I just wanted to thank Chief Darahilo. Did an excellent job of handling succession in the police department, and I was pleased to attend the outdoor promotion ceremony last night in accordance with all the regulations. It was wonderful. I think that the police officers who were promoted and recently hired were very happy that they were able to have a special ceremony, and I was pleased to be there. It was very nice, and it was very, it's always touching to hear all the stuff that they do for the town and how they serve the community. And so I just wanted to congratulate all the guys that were promoted and those that were hired, and wish our officers the best. And thank everyone for joining us there. And thank you, Brian, that was a spectacular idea to make it special for them. And that didn't go unnoticed by me. That was great. Thanks, Brian, and the chief.
Brian?
Okay, so
Good.
couple quick items. I see the mayor just wants to move on, so he's forgetting me again, but that's all right.
I apologize.
No, you're good. So the chief couldn't be here with us tonight, so I do have a quick update on COVID numbers from him. I appreciate him getting me the numbers today. So right now, as of today, we have 8 active cases right now in town. They are linked to 3 separate locations, but there are officially 8 that are ongoing as of this moment in time. Our last positive case was actually last week, and as of this morning, our cumulative number from the beginning of the pandemic is at 268. I know that we do put our update up on the our Facebook and website. Try to do that daily with our updates from the county. I know that does fluctuate on a daily occurrence because, again, it's going by addresses and zip codes. So some days you may see a higher number, and then the next day all of a sudden it drops back down. It's the county, restructuring where the number should have been from. And then again, I also get we get this report from the chief of police, and this is our numbers for right now: 8 active with a cumulative number of 268. Again, just a reminder to the residents: town hall is open by appointment. Please call town hall to either the reception line, or if you know the extension to the department you need, please call and schedule an appointment to come on in. It has been working extremely smooth with residents coming in, meeting with the different departments, and getting your services done. And I know a lot of our staff are very happy to be dealing with residents one-on-one, even through the safety precautions and everything to get the business done of the town. We still have both of our drop boxes or night drops available. One on the side of Town Hall, closest to the fireman's flagpole. And then we do have a drop box more for the construction department at the main entrance. We actually have a steel drop box on order, and hopefully that'll be here in the next 2 weeks, and that'll be out front as well. And that drop box will be for all departments. It's an oversized box, so you'll be able to put any kind of materials in there, and we'll be checking that daily. Our spray park will be open on the weekends. It's still open Saturday and Sunday through September 27th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. So if anyone still wants to enjoy, if it is a hot day, I think this weekend it's supposed to be kind of chilly, but if it still warrants that people want to go play around in the water, Spray Park is available still Saturdays and Sundays to September 27th. Just want to clarify from Councilwoman Montone, the benches were put in by the Parks and Recs department under the direction of Jim Calabelli and Brittany Shea. So we want to thank them because they do look wonderful, and they should be finishing up the last couple that we had left, hopefully if not already by next week. So they're doing a great job with that.
Thank you, Brian, for correcting me. I want to give credit where credit really belongs.
No problem. And then again, myself and the chief, we do want to thank mayor and council for yesterday for the police ceremony and swearing-ins. Again, I walked in this morning still smiling, thinking about it. It was a wonderful event. I'm so glad that all of you were able to get there. Again, we tried to keep it to just families, so so we were within our safety protocols. But we did have it YouTube. Thank you to our dispatcher, Adam Saber. So we will, once he has that done for us, it will be up on our website, on our YouTube channel, and we'll make sure we notice it on our Facebook so the residents can see it as well. It's a short, don't even think it was actually the full 45 minutes that we thought it may be, but it is a great event. The families were happy, our new recruits were happy, and of course our promotees were, I think, just, you can tell the smiles through the mask for sure. And I want to thank, again, Brittany was very helpful getting everything together, from our programs to our invites. Tommy Falco of Buildings and Grounds, he worked to make sure all the chairs got out, the tent got put up, and made sure everything was set with the microphones and our podiums, and making sure we had our disinfectant and Purell out there. And DPW, again, we made the phone call and told them what we needed to get done on the grounds that day. They street sweep the parking lot, got the cones out there, made sure all the landscaping was clean, and our grass was actually wet, so all the sidewalks were full of grass like embedded on the ground. They got the hoses out there and made sure everything was cleaned up and perfect for yesterday. So I got to thank DPW for their hard work, making sure that everything was great for the police department. So it was a great event, and hopefully we'll be having an igloo event in December possibly, because we do have some officers in the academy, and we hope that they keep doing the good work that they're doing in the academy to graduate in December. I actually spoke to 2 of them last night after the event. They were coming back from the academy, and they're doing really well. They're on the top of the mountain right now, and hopefully will be coming down. So they've made it to the hardest stuff, and we should hopefully have some good news in the next couple months to report back to you guys. So rather than that, Mayor, I have nothing else. I do have a request to go back into executive session when we are done with the general order of the business here tonight for a couple more personnel and contractual items to just review with everyone, and end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. So now we'll ask the citizens who are on with us tonight, if anybody has any questions or comments on any agenda item that's on our agenda this evening.
Okay, I do see we have one up right here. It looks like Thomas Perry. Mr.
Good
Perry?
evening, Mayor.
Oh, there you
Yes,
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My first topic of discussion pertains to item number 3 on the consent agenda, which is resolution number 2021-12.
Okay, and your question would be?
The first one is, what water is being tested?
Okay. Brian, would you have that answer now, or do you want to get back to Mr.
I'm gonna
Perry?
check and see if I have anything in my notes. I may have to get back to you, so just give me 1 second. I do try to write on all my information here.
Pretty sure that's the sewer. Could be wrong, though.
More
Tom,
than-
this is a bid that gets done every year. It's not, I
I don't have it for testing. This is like,
yeah,
I have it down for, it's the materials that we need for the sewer plant. It's not for an actual testing program.
Okay, so I'm reading the resolution. It says for routine testing and optimization. So which is it? And what water is being tested and optimized?
Yeah, I'll have to get back to you on it because, like I said, I don't have that for mine. I have it for materials and supplies. But
All right, I'm just reading the resolution that was posted on the Aberdeen Township's website.
Yep, I have the same
no,
resume.
yeah, you're right.
Yep, I see
Okay.
it there too. I'll have to
Alright.
check because I don't have that supervisor on tonight's meeting, so I'll get back to you on that one.
What are the source of funds for this resolution?
I'm sorry, say that again. I lost you.
What are the source of funds? Where are the funds coming from?
Is our
It's from the sewer. That's the
Info
stuff
on
we
there, I
put in
think
the
it's-
wells
yeah.
to make them not
sewer
smell.
account.
I'm sorry, there's people talking over each other.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Gregory.
The bioxide is the chemical we put in all of the sewer pumping stations in everyone's neighborhood so it doesn't smell. And it's apparently $2.63 a gallon this year. Why it has all those other words, I don't know. But I know that stuff we put in the well so they don't smell. We don't have a sewer plant. So the bioxide odor and corrosion control is the stuff that changes the pH of the sewer water in the well. So 1, it doesn't smell, and 2, it doesn't eat the concrete. But I definitely know that.
Okay, I
Tom?
appreciate
Tom?
that. I'm asking what the source of funds are.
Yeah, hi, Tom, can you hear me?
I can, Angela. I can't see you though.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good. The source of funds, it comes out of the regular operating budget. We budget for it every year.
Okay. And Angela, while you're on the podium there, the written certifications that's referred to in the resolution, is that a written certification that you provide to the manager? Or you just walk by and say, hey, Brian, we're good to go. We have the funds.
Well, I wish I could. I don't walk by. Actually, it has to be completely certified. It is a piece of paper. It does outline the account numbers and the amounts that come out of each account. Karen would
Okay.
get at me if I did anything other than that.
I
Okay,
can't put a
thank you.
resolution on without it.
Yep.
Very good. Moving to consent agenda item number 4.
Yes?
So if I'm reading the attachments to the resolution correctly, we're going to give, we're awarding Core and Main approximately $27,000. Ferguson Waterworks, $5,600, and Raritan Pipe about $16,800, so close to $50,000. Am I reading that resolution correctly in the attachments?
Yes. Core and
And
Main,
what,
Raritan Pipe. Yep, and Ferguson Waterworks, yes.
okay, and what is the source of those funds?
Again, Core and Main is part of the capital budget, capital appropriations that we put on to replace all the water mains. I'm not quite sure what the other 3 or 4 are, but they're probably out of operating funds.
I have
And-
9.
Actually, Angela, these are all operating funds. 'Cause
Oh,
this
okay.
is Department of Public Works materials for maintenance and repairs. These are bids.
Including Core and Main?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So the operating funds, they come from the general tax collections, if you will?
No, the operating funds come from the water utility revenues.
Okay, and the water utility revenues is what, Angela?
Your quarterly water bills, use of water.
So only people that in that water districts are
Correct.
paying for these services?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Going
And
to, I'm sorry, Mayor.
no, Tom, I just wanted to make sure that we had to get back to you at this point in time with at least one question, correct? Brian and Tom?
Yes.
Yes, for item number 3.
Good. Thank you, sir. Go ahead and continue, Councilman.
Moving to consent agenda item number 5, which is the third amendment to the master redevelopment agreement between the township and Somerset Development LLC.
Right.
The resolution refers to substantially a form attached here as Exhibit A, but the resolution that I obtained from the township website did not have Exhibit A. Has the council received that?
Well, we had that full discussion in executive, and with Michael now being online, our attorney, if there are more specific questions, except that, yes, we've all been updated on that. Is there another question that you might have about what this is really all about? So Michael will be able to answer it for you.
Yes, and Mayor, I would just note the agenda packet that I have has the exhibit.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, did the council receive the exhibit? I know you're saying you
Yeah.
discussed it.
Yes, yes, we all have that, yes.
Yes.
Okay, is there any reason it wasn't provided to the public on the township website? How am I supposed to ask questions about the resolution if it's not provided?
Okay, good, very
Yeah,
good
that's-
question.
We finished negotiating it till after the agenda was published. I think.
So you can't vote on it tonight because the public has an opportunity to review that exhibit. Is that what you're telling me then? You reviewed it in executive. I don't know what it is, and you're going to vote upon it tonight. Is that what I'm hearing?
Where is it not available? It's not on the township website. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Perry?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, because I'm just saying the agenda packet that I have that was circulated, I guess, is that different than the one that's on the website, Karen? The one that I have the third amendment in here.
Right, the resolutions get posted separately. It's not a packet on the website. The agendas get posted separately, ordinances, and then resolutions get posted separately.
So you didn't have the exhibit with the resolution?
I guess I didn't.
Well, let me just take a look at this real quick. Hold on. I just want to see when the first effective date of this resolution is going to be. Okay, so the first payment is due
15th of October?
15th. Our next meeting is when, Karen? The first?
October 1st.
All right.
October 1st.
All right. And that's, so the first payment's the 15th. All right, then we should be safe, but we should relist it. You got to make sure that we have the exhibit with it, because I'm looking at the resolution again to see. I think the resolution just refers to the exhibit, which has the substance of it. Okay, hold on. Let me just scroll down. Okay. Be it resolved. Yeah, we're gonna have to redo it because it's just saying see the exhibit for it. And because it's October 15th is the first date for the payment, if we adopt it on the 1st, we'll be okay. But when you put it back on the website, you gotta have the exhibit with it. Because I'm just reading the resolution and it doesn't have the specifics of the new payment plan that the Third Amendment, which is the exhibit, has in it.
Thank you, Mr. Perry.
Okay.
I have just a one follow-up question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Cannon said it was discussed in executive session. It's on the workshop agenda as item number 5. I don't recall any discussion at the workshop. And so I'm curious as how the public's supposed to know what the council's opinion is on this resolution in the absence of it not being discussed at the workshop.
Oh, it was discussed in executive, and then by the time it was on the workshop agenda, there was no need for any follow-up questions, because I do ask all the time, are there any questions from members of council on any item? So when the attorney, Mr. Cohen, briefed us on this agreement with Somerset, the council was definitely up to snuff at that point, and the time in workshop, there was no need for follow-up questions because everyone seemed to have a grip on it, Tom. That's the best
So the
answer.
council's up to snuff, but the public's unaware of what the council discussed and what their concerns were.
Well, since you pointed out why it happened or how it happened, it was definitely an oversight. I want to thank you for pointing that out to us, and that we will put it back on October 1. And Councilman Cannon, who normally does our consent, will remove it from the consent tonight, and we call it cleaning it up. And then we'll have it back on properly. And again, I thank you so very much for pointing that out to us. I really appreciate it, Tom.
Not to belabor the point, Mayor, but that's not my concern. My concern is it was discussed in executive session. There was
Yes.
zero discussion at the workshop.
Correct.
How is the public supposed to know what each individual member on the council thinks about this resolution?
Well,
Go ahead. You want to take it, Mayor, or you want me?
no, go ahead, sir.
Well, we're not passing the resolution tonight, Mr. Perry. We're removing it from the agenda. And when it's placed back on the website with Exhibit A, you'll have an opportunity to review it, and any questions that have come up via that can be raised at the next time before it's even adopted.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Again, I'm not going to belabor the point. It's completely non-responsive. The council discussed it in executive session. They came out of executive session. They went into workshop. It's on the workshop agenda. There was no discussion whatsoever for the public, and you're going to move forward with a vote on it. How is the public supposed to know what the council thinks about this resolution? That's the point.
By our vote.
Well, I would
We all have an individual vote, right?
I would say that we would be voting for it as individuals, and if someone voted no, that might be an indicator that the person who voted no probably didn't care for it. And I cannot tell you how the vote would turn out tonight because we haven't taken it. But I think it's the best way I can answer it, is that a vote usually is an indication on how someone feels about any agenda item when it comes time for a vote. Mr. Perry.
Mayor, don't you always ask, does anybody have any questions?
Yes, and I
of the
did.
Manager as he goes
Yeah.
through the workshop? And if
Exactly.
those questions
And
were
I-
asked,
and I-
obviously, during the discussion in executive session, we were satisfied with what came forth.
Well, that's what I said to Mr. Perry, and he's entitled to not liking that answer, and that's okay. But my answer then would have to be that if it was going to be voted on tonight, and if everyone voted yes, or 5-2, or 6-1, or 7-0, that would certainly give you an indication that someone had a problem with it. But we don't really act that way. We would like to hash things out and come to an agreement, because that's just the way we operate as a council since we've been together. But no one's forced to vote for something they don't care for. But so again, I want to thank you for pointing out the miscue tonight. It will be done properly on the 1st. And And that's really all I can say, Mr. P, unless you have a follow-up on that particular statement. I'd be more than happy to hear it. You froze on us, I think. Is everybody else active?
Yes.
Yep.
Mr. Cannon? Yeah. Okay, so Mr. Okay. All right, Mr. Perry, we have lost you in a way, and I don't want to really move on until I hear from you. If you have any other follow-up questions, or maybe council will allow me to come back to Mr. Perry, but I don't want to move on.
I think Mr. Perry is
Perry
back.
He's back.
He's back.
Mr. Perry
Okay.
is muted. Mr. Perry is muted.
Okay. Mr. Perry, are there any other follow-up questions for tonight?
Not on the consent agenda. Thank you, Mayor.
I want to thank you again very much for pointing out what transpired. Thank you very much for being on tonight.
Mr. Perry, if you go into the chat portion, if you can just send me your phone number so I can touch base with you on that question and get that answer for you.
Will do.
Thank you.
Very good. All right. Does anyone else have any questions on agenda items tonight from the public? And the manager will inform me if he's getting anything by text or email or hands are raised.
No, Mayor, nothing else at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll move on to taking a motion from Councilman Hirsch on minutes.
Yes, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and fellow council members, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes of the workshop and regular meetings from May 21st, 2020.
Second.
Do we have a second on that?
I gave a second.
Thank you very much.
Councilman
Roll call?
Cannon,
Yeah.
Yes.
Councilman Hirsch,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Councilwoman Montone,
Yes.
Councilman Swindell,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Martucci,
Yes.
Mayor Tagliarini.
Yes, thank you very much. We'll move on to 8A. Bond ordinance number 9/2020, introduced and passed on first reading on September 3rd, 2020, and published according to law. Affidavit of publication of this ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of September 8, 2020 will be submitted, and is noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted and that copies were available to the general public upon request. Madam Clerk.
Bond ordinance providing for the replacement of water mains in and by the Township of Aberdeen in the County of Monmouth, New Jersey, appropriating $1,900,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $1,710,000 bonds or notes of the township to finance the cost thereof.
Thank you very much. I'd like to open this to the public now for any comments or remarks.
Yes, I have one, Mayor. Hold on
Go
one
ahead.
second. Mr. Perry, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. The question again is similar to those of the resolutions I discussed, looking for the source of the funds for the down payment that's provided in the ordinance for $190,000.
See if
Source of the down payments, again, it comes from the water operating budget. It was part of the capital improvement fund. We generally try to keep a little bit extra in there in case we do need any down payments. However, in a self-liquidating utility, you actually do not need to put a down payment, but we do anyway.
Thank you, Angela. Referring to section 3, which is on the 3A, which is on the second page of the ordinance, it describes where the replacement of the water mains are going to be done. specifically the easterly side of Atlantic Avenue from Church Street to 2nd Street, including all work materials necessary therefore and incidental thereto. My question is are there any members of the council that will benefit from these improvements?
I don't live there, sir.
None? I'm going to take the collective silence as that's a negative response. Okay, that's all the questions I have on this ordinance. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. And as I think for a follow-up, Mr. Perry, we've had numerous leaks on that line, actually brought to our attention by residents. And before we go ahead and pave that South Atlantic, it just makes a lot of logical sense to us is to repair that. And we also had disruption of the baseball field at the high school, which was part of the repair. That was crumbling pipes at the age that they are. So that's the general scope of the project, but I can't think of anyone that's getting any real benefit from it, Mr. P.
No, my question, Mayor, for that question was specifically whether any member of council needed to recuse themselves on the vote if they're going to receive the benefit of the improvements.
Oh, no, okay.
But to your point, and just to briefly, several budget cycles ago, we had a discussion as to why Aberdeen was still in the water business.
Yes, we have had that discussion. You're absolutely correct. I think that's a discussion that you and I don't have too much disagreement with. But as I've just said prior to answering other questions, if there's not enough affirmative opinion that you and I possibly share, it doesn't move. And that's the best answer I can give you on that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, sir. So now, anyone else? Mr. Russell, you see any other thumbs up or?
No, Mayor, I don't see anyone else.
Okay, then I'm going to ask Councilwoman Kelly for a motion.
Yes, to the mayor and my fellow council members, I'd like to make a motion that bond ordinance number 9, 2020 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published by summary in the September 22nd, 2020 issue of the Asbury Park Press as required by the local bond law.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Cannon.
Yes.
Councilman Hirsch.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Councilwoman Montone.
Yes.
Councilman Swindell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Martucci.
Yes.
Mayor Tagliarini.
Yes, thank you very much. We'll move on to Bond Ordinance 10, 2020, introduced and passed on first reading on September 3rd, 2020, and published according to law. Affidavit of publication of this ordinance in the Asbury Park Press, issue of September 8, 2020, will be submitted as noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted and that copies were available to the general public upon request. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance appropriating $625,000 from the Capital Improvement Fund, the Sewer Capital Improvement Fund, and the Water Capital Improvement Fund for various capital, sewer, and water improvements in and by the Township of Aberdeen in the County of Monmouth, New Jersey.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'd like to open the meeting now to the public for remarks or comments for or against this final adoption. And I don't see anybody as well as Brian does. So Brian, do you see any questions?
Give me 1 second, just rolling down the list.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
And I see nothing, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, I'll ask Councilwoman Montone for a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and fellow council members, I would like to make a motion that bond ordinance number 10, 2020 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published by summary in the September 22nd, 2020 issue of the Asbury Park Press as required by the local bond law.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Cannon.
Yes.
Councilman Hirsch.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kelly.
Yes.
Councilwoman Montone.
Yes.
Councilman Swindell,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Martucci,
Yes.
Mayor Tagliarini.
Yes, thank you very much. What I'd like to do now is open the meeting to correspondence from the citizens, petitions, new business, anything that might be on your mind. Yes, sir.
Mayor, we have consent agenda still.
Yes, we do. And we have some housekeeping first by Councilman Cannon on that.
Sure, Mayor and fellow council members, I'd like to make a motion to adopt to modify and amend the consent agenda to remove resolution 2020-114.
Second.
Second. Got it, Connie?
Councilman Cannon,
Yes.
Councilman Hirsch,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Councilwoman Montone,
Yes.
Councilman Swindell,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Martucci,
Yes.
Mayor Tagliarini.
Yes, thank you very much. And now we're up to 10.
Now we have to adopt.
Yeah, now we have to adopt the consent agenda. That's 3 strikes. I'm done.
Mayor and fellow council members, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the amended consent agenda, which consists of resolutions 2020-110, 111, 112, and 113.
Second.
Councilman Cannon,
Yes.
Councilman Hirsch,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kelly,
Yes.
Councilwoman Montone,
Yes.
Councilman Swindell,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Martucci,
Yes.
Mayor Tagliarini.
Yes, thank you very much. Should we attempt 10 now?
Yep. You can do
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. Okay, this will be item number 10, petitions, correspondence, new business, whatever might be on your mind. Please indicate by raising a hand or your thumb, or wave to Brian or email him if there's any questions.
Yes, I have one. Mr. Perry, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, Mr. Russell. I have 4 topics tonight I'd like to discuss. The first one is 171 Church Street. The council previously asked the Environmental and Shade Tree Advisory Board to inspect the property and provide a report to the council. My first question is whether or not the council received such a report.
We were fortunate enough to have one of our environmentalists, and I don't believe I see him on right now, did a walkthrough, nothing really official, but he gave us an indication of what's there. And I think I might turn this over to our attorney to, well, specifically, Mr. Perry, what else would you like to know about 171 Church? We did receive the report.
Have you received the report?
Yes, we have received a report from one of our environmentalists about what he found on the property. And we're also looking into our records. Mr. Russell will be checking tomorrow if we ever received anything from DEP on this particular property. It's approximately 6 acres, and 5 of it was it was farmland and more or less wet. And of course, there is a structure that's on part of the property now. And other than that, that's what we have learned so far. And unless you have a follow-up question.
I do, Mr. Mayor, and I thank you for the description of the property, but I'm intimately familiar with it. It's right around the corner from me.
Right.
So the report that the council or the township received, is that a public document?
I'm sure of it, and we'd be more than happy. It was done by Paul, and I'm sure we'll be able to get that for you. Just have, when you write to Brian about the other question that you might have, request a copy of that. Sure.
Well, other than me requesting it as a member of the public, would it be available on the town's website as a public document, or do I have to specifically ask for those type of documents?
I don't have an answer for you. Michael, is there an answer for you?
You would ask for it.
I'm sorry, say that again, sir?
You would ask for it.
Okay, so the township's not going to readily make it available. I have to ask for it, affirmatively ask for it.
That would be my understanding at this point.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, you mentioned that it was a farmland.
Yeah,
and public documents do indicate that for tax purposes, the property was assessed as a farm. Does Aberdeen know what farming activity occurred at that property by the prior owner that qualified it as a farm?
That was something we did discuss earlier, and I think Councilman Cannon or someone might have brought up the fact that it probably hasn't been used for a farm for 6, 7, 8, 10 years. Councilman Cannon, did you have a handle on how long it's been since it's really been farmed for any kind of profit?
I mean, no, not specifically. I mean, I know the assessor's been tracking it and revoked the farmland assessment, so at the tax board yesterday. So, I mean, obviously the tax board accepted that it's no longer being used for farming.
Is that retroactive?
Only for the current tax year, I believe. You'd have to ask the assessor to more specifically get the details, but my understanding is you can only go back up to 3 tax years, 2 or 3.
That's my understanding also.
Does Aberdeen know I'm sorry, Mayor.
No, go ahead, Mr. Perry, go ahead.
Does Aberdeen know who the current owner is?
Yes.
And who is that?
B&D Development?
Yes.
And who or what is B&D Development?
2 guys who speculate in land that have a company called B&D Development.
And does Aberdeen know what B&D paid for the 171 Church Street property?
$140,000.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
$140,000.
Does Aberdeen know what B&D is currently seeking for the sale of the property?
$1 million.
And I believe there was discussion at a prior council meeting about asking our township engineer to inspect the property. Has that been done?
There was discussion, and no, that has not been done.
Does Aberdeen have any knowledge of B&D owning any other properties previously owned or currently owned by B&D?
Where?
I'm asking if Aberdeen knows. In Aberdeen.
Not that we're aware of, no. Mr. Perry, are you representing someone today?
Yeah, I'm representing myself. I live around the corner from that property.
Okay, I was just asking.
Okay. That's all I have on the Church Street property. Can I discuss the next topic, Mayor?
You've got the floor, sir.
Thank you. The YouTube meetings. Does Aberdeen have to undertake any steps to post its Zoom council meetings on the YouTube channel?
Are you asking, is there a time limit for us to post it?
That's going to be the follow-up question. I just want to know what we conclude this meeting, it's over. What are the steps involved to post it to the channel?
Okay, our Brittany Shea Terciano will post it to YouTube, hopefully in a timely manner. And that's it. There's YouTube. The best of my knowledge, YouTube doesn't say to us that's too old or you're doing it too quickly, unless Brian knows of a timeline.
No, once I get once the Zoom sends me the recording, I then send that to our public information officer, Brittany, and like the mayor said, in a timely manner, she tries to get it up within the next 2 or 3 days when she has that.
Mr. Russell, what's the general time frame that Zoom will send you the meeting?
I've gotten it as quick as 3 or 4 hours. I've gotten it as far as 24 hours, depending on, I guess, how crazy their system is.
Okay. The only reason I'm asking because I was trying to review other council meetings that I was not able to attend, and the last posted meeting that I can find is the July 23rd, 2020 meeting.
I will check with Brittany tomorrow, but she should have all of them, and everything I've noticed has always been on there, but I'll double check.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, my third topic, sidewalks.
Yes, sir.
Does Aberdeen have any sidewalks that it's responsible for maintaining?
Well, sure we do. Right in front of Town Hall is one of them. Right then and there. And other than that, I don't have a complete list. but we can certainly get that for you if you'd like that.
You must be reading my notes here, Mayor. My next question is, does Aberdeen maintain a list of those sidewalks?
I'm sure we can get that for you. Mr. Russell's probably taking note of that now.
Okay. And then the follow-up is if Aberdeen has a policy in place to regularly inspect and maintain those sidewalks.
Well, we would hope that our code enforcer from the building department is doing that on a some sort of schedule. And good question.
Okay, so the question really stems from, I regularly use the sidewalk that runs from Brookview Lane to the Henry Hudson Trail underpass there to access the Henry Hudson Trail. I believe that is Aberdeen's responsibility, but correct me if I'm wrong, because a few years ago, I asked for the repair and replacement of that sidewalk as far as this, and in addition to the sidewalk going from Brookview Lane towards the Ice Cream Palace there. It's in complete disrepair. The vegetation is overgrowing the sidewalk. There's garbage and litter that is on the sidewalk. So I just bring that to the
What sidewalk section is this? This is the first I'm hearing of it. So what section is this?
It runs from Brookview Lane up, that would be Route 34 North towards the overpass, the train trestle there for the Henry Hudson Trail. So you're going towards the Walgreens there, Mr. Russell.
Okay.
And then finally on sidewalks.
Excuse me, Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding where the area of the sidewalk that you're talking about, but if it's over by the Walgreens, isn't that Mattawan?
Well, it runs, Mr. Hirsch, it starts from the B section when you exit out of the B section on Brookview Lane. So if you make a right-hand turn onto Route 34, then it runs south on 34 towards Walgreens. So I would agree with you that I think that probably once you hit the train trestle, Aberdeen's responsibility terminates, but it's that area in between that is a concern to me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, I'm gonna check on that tomorrow on this sidewalk stuff. I think part of it may be partially Mattawan's and partially ours, so I gotta double check on it.
Brian, we built it. It's ours to the trestle.
Okay. All right, I'm just trying to get my bearings on it.
Okay. And lastly on sidewalks, I know Aberdeen commits a fair amount of resources, and they're dedicated to our road improvements and our sidewalks improvements and our infrastructure improvement. So when Aberdeen goes in and spends all that money, and then a homeowner comes in and has a contractor do whatever, connect a Verizon cable, replace their oil tank with gas lines, and then they cut into the brand new sidewalk, and then the contractor repairs it with black patch. Is that acceptable, or is the contractor or the homeowner required to return it to its original condition?
I would like to answer that question if I may.
Sure.
The homeowner or the contractor is required to return the sidewalk or the road, whatever they happen to break open to do, whatever work they're doing, to its original state. There are times, though, because I have questioned this here in the A section where I live, Mr. Perry, where I saw where new sidewalks were torn up and filled with asphalt. And the answer I received on several occasions from the engineers was that they are, depending on the work that was done, they'll sometimes fill it with asphalt, make sure everything settles correctly, make sure that all the repairs have held. Then they'll go in, remove the asphalt, and they're supposed to go in, remove the asphalt, and repair the concrete to its original state.
Okay, that's my understanding as well, Mr. Hirsch, so I appreciate your comments. I'm just concerned as to if there's any follow-up by the township with respect to that type of renovation or repair work, how long the time frame is, because I can give you a reference to a street that was recently done and really well done. That would be the Cashel cut through. So if anybody drives down, you can see the black patch that I'm talking about.
How long's that patch been there, Mr. Perry?
I'm going to say at least a week, possibly 10 days or longer.
Well, it does take some time, and they want to make sure that the ground does settle, as Mr. Hirsch was saying, before they would
No,
replace.
no, and I get that. My question is like, who follows up on that? Do I have to come back and say, hey, it's now January and it's still not repaired?
Based on my conversations with the engineers, when I asked the question on issues here in the A section, they follow up on it, they watch it, and they have to approve that the settling has been completed, and I don't know the correct terminology because I'm certainly not an engineer, and that it's in good shape and safe to do the final restoration.
Thank you, Mr. Hirsch.
And since I've been here, it's actually been a joint between the engineers inspector and our DPW that have gone out and inspected, or if I've had a complaint, for us to review and double check it. And it's usually up to about 6 months from if it's one of our utility companies that they'll come back to resurface that area.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Lastly, and then I'll be done because I don't know about you, but I haven't had dinner yet. Signs. And I'm not talking about the signs that people put up. They're selling stuff, or I buy your house, or, you know, I can teach little Johnny to learn math better. I'm just talking about commercial signs and whether there's an ordinance or any kind of other regulation that Aberdeen has to keep signs in good working condition and maintain it so it doesn't become an eyesore to the community. And I'll be specific. The CVS sign on South Atlantic and 34 is in dire need of paint. And I think it reflects poorly upon the township as a township that doesn't care. And I know that's not the case, but it's disgusting.
I agree with that. It's all rusted out. I was going to look up the property owner and send him a letter myself, but if Brian wants to do it, I'm more than happy.
We'll gladly do it. I'll talk to code enforcement tomorrow. I believe there may be something in the ordinance because I was doing looking at the other sign issues of on regular properties. I will double check on the commercial. I want to say yes, but I don't want to commit to that until I actually go back and look and talk to Ken in the morning. But
I can take a look as well, Brian.
Thank you, Mike. And then Mr. Perry, Winston, I got to follow up with you anyway. I'll let you know as well once I get that answer too.
I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Good seeing everybody. Be safe.
Thank you.
Good night, thank you, Mr. Perry. Thank you for your questions. Anyone else?
Yep, give me 1 second. Let me just double check.
Yeah, please double check. We don't want to leave anyone out.
I don't see anybody on my my screen, and let me just double check my other screen. No, Mayor, you're good.
Okay, well, we're going to take a motion to go back to executive. So I'd like to ask Michael and/or Karen, we'll only have to come back to public, which we will record, if we take an action in executive, correct? So if we take no action as we go back to executive to further our discussion on a couple of points, if we don't take an action, we will not come back on this screen here. But if we do and people aren't with us, it'll be on the recording and hopefully we'll get it up in a timely fashion on YouTube. So with this, I'll take a motion to return to executive, if you'd be so kind, someone.
Mr. Mayor, my fellow council members, I'd like to make a motion for us to return to executive session from regular session at this time.
Second.
Second, great, all in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye. Good, so thank you everybody for coming, tuning in tonight. And if we do take any kind of action, we'll be coming back. But as I said, it'll be recorded and put up on YouTube. And thank you all very, very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't sign off, I'm just going to put you back into the waiting room, and then you can still log out from there.
Okay, oh, we're back recording.
Yep, hold on, Mayor.
Okay,
Got to get people out of the.
okay. do that.
All right,
All right,
you're-
ladies and gentlemen, we have completed the executive session with no action being taken this evening. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion
I'll
to
make that
adjourn.
motion.
Good. Second on that?
Second.
I was seconded. Beautiful. Good night, everybody, and
All in favor?
all in
Aye.
favor? Good
Good
enough.
night, everybody. Thank you.
Good
Good night,
night.
everybody. Be safe, be healthy.
So.